Hey everyone, it's the 12 Days of Misfits.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the 12 Days of Misfits. It's day 12. It's Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is the big day. Rico is still with us. He's looking to get at least a half a point today to be able to go 12 for 12. We are going to see if he can do it. So, Rico, there's only one passage left. And we
Okay.
are back to the beginning of the book. Genesis chapter 15 is where we are going. I will say this one may be a little bit more difficult. We'll see what we can do with it. So we're going to be in Genesis 15, and we're going to be reading verses 1 through 17.
All right, let's do it.
So it says, after these events, and these events are Abram completely destroying all the other enemy kings that were going after him and Lot. And I mean, like, completely decimating them. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. But Abram said, Lord God, what can you give me since I am childless and the heir of my house is Eleazar of Damascus? Which I will say is always interesting that Lot is not on the inheritance list after he just saved him from the kings. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Other stuff. But, Lot was over there with, wasn't he with the...
No, they just saved him from there. So that's why it's just kind of funny to me that, Lot's not on the will. Anyway, unrelated to Christmas. Abram continued, look, you have given me no offspring, so a slave born in my house will be my heir. Now the word of the Lord came to him. This one will not be your heir. Instead, one who comes from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look at the sky and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, your offspring will be that numerous. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, Lord God, how can I know that I will possess it? He said to him, bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So he brought all these to him, cut them in half, and laid the pieces opposite each other, but he did not cut the birds in half. Birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. And as the sun was setting, a deep sleep came over Abram, and suddenly a great terror and darkness descended on him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know this for certain, your offspring will be resident aliens for 400 years in land that did not belong to them, and will be enslaved and oppressed. However, I will judge the nation they serve, and afterward they will go out with many possessions. But you will go to your fathers in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the fourth generation they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set and it was dark, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch appeared and passed between the divided animals. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, I give this land to your offspring, from the brook of Egypt to the great river, to the Euphrates River, the land of the Kenites, Kezites, Kadamites, Hittites, Perizzites, all the ites. Now, what does this have to do with Christmas? There's one answer that most people are going to be like, well, this is obvious, but that's not actually the answer that we're looking for. So what are we thinking?
Well, what I was thinking that was obvious is that God made a promise to Abraham that he would give him a son that will kind of that the whole nations will be blessed through, right? And
Right.
that is fulfill. Jesus is that promised offspring, right? He's the fulfillment of this covenant that he made with, all the Israelites, as you eloquently put it. And so that's what I was thinking, but because that seems kind of obvious to me that Jesus is the fulfillment.
Here's what I would say to that though. That is not in this chapter.
That Jesus did that.
No, that was not the promise that was given, is it? That's why I said it looks obvious, but it's not. Go back and read verse 4.
Wait, let me see. Verse 4, it says, then the Lord said to him, no, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir. And then the
That's
Lord,
it, right?
okay, yeah, but I thought down at
That's
the
a
bottom.
different covenant and a different passage. And that's why
Mm,
this one trips people up, is because we just automatically associate it that way, right? But this is before Hagar comes into the picture. This is before Ishmael.
mm. Okay,
That
so
blessing is put on to Jacob, right?
mm,
Or not Jacob, sorry, Isaac, right? That's the blessing that Abram is given as far as what Isaac is going to have. Isaac is going to be the one, and through him, all nations will be blessed.
okay.
And that's where we get to Jesus, right?
All right, yeah.
That's not what we've got going on here.
All right, well, hold on, let me look some more.
Instead,
Hold on, let me see if I can catch it then.
okay.
Let me see if I can catch it. Hold on, because I was definitely I got a little cocky here. So hold on.
It's okay. No, I told you that I told you that was where you were going to go, and that wasn't where we needed to go.
All right, so God. All right, so sometime later there was a vision. All right. What good are all your blessings? I don't even have a son. So okay.
Keep moving through. Keep moving through.
Abraham believed the Lord and counted on him righteousness. I will say this: we are in verse 6. We are that is how we are saved, and we are
And
saved.
here's where you can get half a point: is what is it that Abram actually believed?
Okay, hold on.
He believed what? That he would have what?
A son.
Specifically, he would have descendants, right?
Yeah. Okay, so because in verse 4 and 5, it talks about how the Lord said to him, "No, your servant will not be your heir, for you have a son." Then the Lord took him outside and looked up. So that's where it talks about descendants. This is how many descendants you will have. And Abraham believed that.
He believed that God was going to be able to do what with him and his wife's old bodies?
Give them a son.
What's the word we've been using? What's the word
Heir.
we've been using?
Wait.
No, not heir. Redeem, right? He's
He'll
going to be able
to
to redeem their old bodies and give
Okay.
them a son.
Okay.
That's what he believed. He believed in the redemption of God. He believed in the power of God and all this sort of stuff. That is what was credited him as righteous. That's what we're called to do as well, right? We are
Right.
called to understand that God is going to redeem us.
Yeah.
And he redeems us through his son.
Through his son, through Jesus. Yeah. Okay.
Now there's one other piece here. And this is where we actually get more into the actual why this is something we need to be taking into account for Advent.
Okay.
What's the deal with all these animals? Do you know?
Sacrifice.
I don't know if this is one you've ever come across in Bible studies, things like that. What's the deal with all the animals being cut up and everything like that?
It's okay. Hold on, let me read it real quick until I can connect it. The Lord told him, "Bring me a 3-year-old heifer and a 3-year-old female goat, 3-year-old ram, turtle dove." So Abraham presented it to him, killed him. Then he cut the animals down the middle and laid the hat. So I've heard this preached this way before, that this is actually kind of where we get marriage from a little bit. So yeah, this is what I've heard, but let me walk through it. The reason why.
Okay, not where I've ever heard it go, but okay.
they cut the animals in half and split them on each side, and then I guess the way this was preached to me, now this is not Rico saying that this is biblical, but this is where I've heard it before, is that when he cut these animals and split them down by side, and then they said back in those days when you would make a covenant, the lesser of the person will walk down that aisle of the dead animals, right? And what that signifies is, if I break this covenant, may what happens to me be like these animals. And so what they were saying is that instead God puts him to sleep here. For some reason, I just heard this sermon recently. God put him to sleep, and instead of having Abraham walk the covenant, God does the covenant. God walks it, and basically saying that, hey, if this covenant is broken, this is what will happen to me. So then foretells over to Jesus being beat, crucified, dying, and resurrecting for us, because we actually broke the covenant, but God himself actually took the payment for us breaking the covenant versus us breaking it.
So you're almost there. I understand now why you said marriage.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily marriage. It's any covenant.
Yeah. Yeah.
When a covenant was made, and it wasn't just one that walked through, it was supposed to be both walked through, because if either one of us break this, the other one can do this to us.
Got
Right?
it.
This is, you know, this is what's going to let it happen to me. If I break it, let it happen to you. If you break it, all that. But that's not what happens, because God puts him to sleep.
And God does it.
And God walks through himself saying that this is the sign that I am the one that is going to do this.
Yeah. And then Jesus actually does it.
And this is where it gets interesting, is that what happens here in a chapter or two. Abram and Sarah and Hagar decide they're going to try to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
And because she didn't. I guess God was taking too long to give her the child, so he had.
God was taking too long, right?
Yeah.
God was taking too long. We are not patient enough to wait on the promise. There is no Advent there, right? That's what we're doing, is we are waiting on the promise to come. But what God has promised is that he is going to do it for us. That's all we have to do, is wait on the promise. And what's interesting in this too, there's a couple other things that are interesting. This is before Moses. This is before you've got Egypt. This is before all of it. Even though Egypt is prophesied here, which is also an interesting historical thing, is like Abram knew well in advance that there was going to be all that stuff going down in Egypt.
Yeah.
God even gave him the number of years. Like this is not a surprise. It was coming. We knew it. He also prophesies in here the wandering, because after they leave the 400 years, it says that was going to be a few generations before they get in.
Yeah.
It's all there. We knew all this was coming. Everything is going on. But yet, look at how God still identifies himself to Abram. It is, I am the one that brought you from Ur to give you this. Even here, before you have the slavery in Egypt, before you have the oppression of Egypt, before you have all this other stuff, God still identifies himself as the one that brought you out into the promise.
It's good.
And then he says that I will still take care of everything else. I just need you to wait. Which we know Abram can't do. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
We know that the people of Israel have a hard time with this as well. We have a big problem with this as well, because that's part of the whole thing you were just talking about when you, a couple of days ago, when you decided to step on the soapbox for a minute and talk to the prophets of today, right?
Yeah.
We have a problem with waiting because we want Jesus to come back now. We want Jesus to come back now. We want Jesus to come back now. But the reality is that the same God that brought Abram up out of pagan territory into the promise, the same God that brought Abram's descendants out of oppression and slavery into a promised land, the same God that came and gave of himself to bring us up out of oppression, both physically and spiritually, is still the one that smashed the idol. Is still the one that smashes all these things. In Daniel, we talked about in Kingdom on the Road, the presence of God caused the literal idols to fall down in worship of it. All of these different things, it's the same God. And we still are having a problem with waiting, but we are just told to wait. And that if we wait in the way that we have been told to wait, which is to love God and love other people while we wait, we're going to be able to see the image of God in other people. We're going to be able to, that's why we did this whole enemies discussion. We stop seeing enemies and we see image bearers. It's why we have been talking about things like shame and patriarchy and things like that even throughout all this, is because we stop seeing hierarchies and see image bearers and see places that we can submit and serve. And we should be reminded of all of this stuff as we walk through Advent, because this is the story that we are celebrating, even when we only read one chapter out of Luke and we only read it for a 4-day period out of the year. But that story is one that is a repeat of everything that we have seen throughout the Old Testament. And it's one that continues even into places like Paul telling people how to pray in 1 Timothy.
Yeah.
And how to run your households in Ephesians, and all these other things that we see, and how to handle hierarchy in Galatians, how to handle tyrannical pagan governments and Romans, how to do all this stuff. It's the same story because all of it is centered around the fact that God's desire is that all men be saved.
Man, I love how you tied in that whole we got to be patient and wait. And because honestly, with all the stuff that's going on in the world today, it makes your heart like, God, when are you returning? Like when if we have to stop doing this waiting? And then we get in trouble when we start to try to be like God, or we try to do it for God.
And we are guilty of doing the same thing we see in Acts also, of we are looking up to heaven so long that we have to be, slapped in the face saying, why are you still standing here? He's already given you the instructions.
Yeah, it's good.
So unfortunately for Rico, he did not get today's. He was trying his hardest. He didn't get there.
I thought I got it.
No, I take that back. I take that back. Wait a minute. No. You did. I guess.
Yeah. When we talked about when I started breaking down how God.
Yeah. I guess we'll give you a half a point. We'll get you to 12. You missed the big piece and got me lost when he started talking about marriage, and that threw me off. But I guess we'll give you 12. So he gets 12 for his first round. Not too bad. Was it as bad as you were expecting? Was it better than you were expecting? What? Give us a interview.
I feel like this. If I didn't go back and read the Crystal Stories, I would have bombed horribly. So it was good that I prepared a little bit.
Awesome. So again, make sure you go check out Rico with all of his stuff. You can find out all of his stuff over on the KFM Broadcasting site if you go under the team section, click on Rico, you'll get a list of all of his shows. But his shows are Blessedtimony and the Sunday Sermon Deep Dive. And then he's also been on Kingdom on the Road once or twice. He's been on Let It Rip once or twice. I think you've been on Love Thy Neighbor a few times. I'm not sure. Did you do a buddy walk? I think you did a buddy walk, maybe.
Yeah, I've done a couple of things with Joe on buddy walk.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, but it was
a few
years ago.
He's been around, and he's been around. Joe has described he's listed me, you, and Ant in different ways of being the originals because he's been working with you in a content creation setting the longest. He's been working in terms of discipleship level stuff with Ant the longest. He's been doing the most collaborative shows with me the longest. And so it only makes sense that all of us are always together now that we've got the KFM Broadcasting Network up, which if you want more information on that, kfmbroadcasting.com. Those of you looking for more Misfit stuff, MrMisfits.com. Go check out the blogs on both of those sites. Those of you over on the KFM Broadcasting site also should go fill out prayer requests in the prayer portal. Let us know how we can pray and serve you in that way while we're all waiting. Tomorrow is Christmas. Enjoy it. Merry Christmas early. We will see you all probably in the new year unless Joe tells me we have to do another recording by New Year. So we will see you all then.
All right. This was fun.